Let's talk about ENTPs. How dressing your inferior SI is going to help you to achieve your goals in life, or at least to meet your potential. So ENTP is one of my favorite MBTI type because I personally learn a lot from them. I'm very fascinated with how ENTPs project themselves as a whole, their charisma, their wittiness, their sarcasm, their jokes, their directness, their brain. I'm very fascinated with ENTPs, but at the same time, as much as I get a lot of inspiration from what ENTPs wear, because they are stereotyped as the rebel when it comes to their dressing, apart from ESTP, but I would say ENTPs are a little bit more rebellious in a way where, unlike ENFP, they are a bit more inclined to trends, fashion. They tend to wear or get inspired by what's out there. They kind of mix it in such a way that it looks a bit more optimistic, more relatable, more commercial. But ENTPs, they are a bit like Daredevil. They kind of want to look like they are a rebel. They are the troublemaker. So sometimes their outfit can come off very edgy, intimidating, not approachable. So ENTPs, if they are very developed, I believe that they are one of the most charismatic type because of the brilliance of introverted thinking and extroverted intuition. They're able to seek out truth, talk about the truth, have clarity about what people are looking for. They are very aware of what people seek out, and therefore they're able to say a lot of things that inspire people. But they also have a side of them that is a little bit more high variance. So what do I mean is that they can seem unstable or not someone that you can trust easily, because they mask a lot of the things that they say, sometimes with jokes, with their wittiness. So as much as you can have a lot of fun with them, you can't really predict them, and therefore you find it hard to trust them. So I teach fashion psychology and style semiotics. So what does this mean? I coach people on how to decode what they wear, encode the right signals so that it fulfills your image goal, and most importantly, able to be congruent to your personality, and not allowing your personality to take away your potential, meaning I am the way I am, I'm going to dress the way I am, but it's also teaching you that from self-awareness, you can also flex yourself to dress, to look like other types, so that you can, in some sense, emulate those MBTI cognitive function. I teach people to decode what it means to wear a certain thing, what kind of visual communication it provides, so that people are very intentional about what they wear and what message they're sending out. ENTPs usually sound like the smartest person in the room, but they also risk offending other people with the kind of things that they say. Most of your visual signal, because you tend to rebel and don't like to wear things that looks like everybody else, you could have a very statement-making accessory, or like your way of dressing that has to be very different from everybody else, a little bit edgier, I would say. You look like the improviser, you look like the rule bender, and you look like a creative chaos, which is not wrong, but again, it can intimidate people and make people feel indifferent. So if you speak to most ENTPs, at least the ones that I've met online and the ones that I've studied, and celebrities who are ENTPs, there's been studied by the community, most ENTP would tell you that their style is to be edgy, to be bold, and to be different. And because their introverted thinking and extroverted intuition is already making them do that, and because they have extroverted feeling at a lower part of their cognitive function, sometimes, as much as they care about people's feeling, they might come off as they don't care. Similarly to ENFPs, which is the same advice that I give to ENFPs, is that because you have inferior SI, introverted sensing, which is memory, duty, routine, maintenance, that is not your cup of tea. That is not what you're good at. You find it boring, you find it mundane to be consistent. It doesn't really inspire you to be that way. Therefore, looking different in your edgy outfit is quite important. So what happens is, you do end up with great outfits sometimes, but on other times, it doesn't look consistent because maybe you never really thought of it, or maybe you just don't care. It's not, I wouldn't say that it's the same as ENFPs because they have FI, so they kind of wear according to their emotion. But for ENTPs, because you have introverted feeling in your trickster function, which sometimes makes you even more, it's like a blind spot. You are very oblivious with what you feel or your morality. So sometimes it can show up as good and sometimes it can show up as bad. You're not really sure. And therefore, with this kind of high variance instability, it makes people think that you are not reliable or hard to trust. So what does inferior SI look like for ENTPs when it comes to, I think in general, but I will zoom into the fashion personal style, of course, but in general, inferior SI insecurity for ENTPs look like you hate being pinned down, commit to, let's say, I don't know, you have a boss that tells you every day you need to do this and already fixed your timetable for you. That's just something that you cannot deal with. You need to have your autonomy. You need to have flexibility. You change your look when you feel bored, and you treat dressing like an experiment because of introverted sensing inferior. Because of novelty, you like freshness. You like to optimize endlessly. Let's add on things. This project, instead of sticking to the plan, you want to improvise it further. So instead of standardizing it across, you could have different standards because for you, it's all about optimization. It's all about making sure that it is the most accurate as possible. When it comes to standardizing, it becomes a little bit difficult for you. And you under-maintain details because it's not intellectually interesting to you. So similarly to INTJs, INFJs, some details you may not be very fond of, especially when it doesn't stimulate you intellectually. People who get bored easily are very fascinating. Usually when I do a wardrobe detox, I get to see all their personality, multiple personality in their wardrobe. And then a period of time where they are happy, unhappy, rebellious. You can see all of it in their wardrobe. There's nothing that is consistent or predictable. So you see what's happening here is when you always show novelty, newness, you appear inconsistent, and then you get social pushback, and you get even more constrained. And because you already have extroverted feeling as your third function, not very developed, so sometimes it can be a bit passive aggressive. Often you look like you're not relatable, but some people do find you very charismatic. So there's a bit of that passive aggressiveness going on. So now let's get down to what are the wardrobe patterns of inferior SI for ENTP. So this is something that you can use to analyze your current wardrobe ENTP. Again, this is stereotypical. You may not be this ENTP that I am describing. You could be a very developed ENTP who is very open-minded and is probably very educated in fashion. But this is for the general ENTPs who are struggling to exercise or use their inferior SI and is showing up in a negative way through their personal style. So pattern number 1, the contrarian piece. What is a contrarian piece? Basically is that rebellious piece. Usually this is a leather jacket. Usually this is your leather combat boots, your military boots. It is something, a fashion item that is so intimidating and so rebellious that it is telling people that, hey, don't mess with me. Pattern number 2, the smart mess. You look intelligent, you can look put together, but something is not right. Like maybe your tie is weird, or maybe you are purposely not following the rule of if you wear a certain colored shoe, your belt should be matching it. You decide to wear a belt that is patterned, for example, because you think it looks different. It's actually you rebelling to the fashion norm. You could really look sophisticated, put together as a whole, but then you decide to wear that weird ass watch that a special friend gave it to you and it symbolizes what you believe in, that is very ostentatious to other people, that could be offensive to other people, but you think it's personal style. And your identity can be like a roulette. So what do I mean? Similarly to ENFPs, because you like freshness, novelty, so one day you can be very classic, professional, a guy that looks very successful, but the next day you look like this street guy that, why do I use the word guy? I'm sorry, I don't mean to stereotype. Sorry. Obviously my camera died. So pattern number 3, the identity roulette. So one day you can look very classy, respectable, the person that is very reliable because of your tailored pieces. But then the next day you can look like you're from the street. You look absolutely rebellious, disheveled, chaotic, like a punk. And then another day, you just clash everything as a whole. Ultimately, your experimentation makes you look like you are not reliable. When your style changes on a daily basis or a weekly basis, your credibility also is being perceived differently on a daily or weekly basis. So how people misread ENTP's dressing style, their intent versus the impact, is that their intent might be, I am provocative, I am original in my thinking, I am not basic, and I am very different. It's just they also suffer from the fact that why people are not taking them seriously and why they have a lot of missed opportunities or people don't respect them is also because sometimes they don't carry themselves the way that they should. So the impact can be, they look like they are harder to manage because they are provocative, they are original thinkers. There's a famous saying, there's just no way to manage them because they do not fall within the typical structure at a workplace. Because then they wouldn't be creative. So that's why it's harder to manage them. They won't follow client expectations, which means that if you're ENTP and you're client facing, maybe your boss will be quite worried with the fact that since you are very blunt, very brutal with the things that you say, you always correct people, although you're very witty, very sharp-tongued, and because of your dressing, maybe you don't really care for it, or maybe you don't look very relatable, you don't care about trends, you don't care about looking socially belonging to what people would find relatable. Your boss might think that you just won't follow client expectation and that you will have issues delivering service excellence. You are brilliant, but you're also risky. And that's why people negotiate harder with you. They want to debate with you because of certain situation that they are worried that you might cause. Sadly, in some professional rooms, safe people are being chosen rather than the risky ones. This is a very difficult thing for me to say. I'm not saying that entirely, but it happens. So the good news is, my strategy here is to not make you look boring. I just need you to look calibrated, a bit more put together. So how does ENTP use their inferior SI to support their wardrobe, to not get people to misread them, or making sure that their intent equals to the impact that they're trying to make is, for example, rule number 1, standardize the base. So this is a very similar advice that I give ENFPs, which is, SI means you need repetition, you need reliability, you need structure. There is a record of you wearing a particular thing that makes you look reliable, trustworthy, consistent. So pick one default item that you are going to showcase throughout the week. So it could be a silhouette, as easy as a silhouette. For guys, instead of varying between your t-shirt, your sweater, suddenly there's a denim jacket, you can vary all of that, but you're always pairing it with tailored pants. You're always pairing it with navy pants that has a formal finishing fabric to it that still looks a bit polished. There's one tailored piece that anchors your entire silhouette, and you can vary it on other things. So there is actually that one thing that is your baseline rather than changing it up all the time. I love a structured jacket for ENTPs because they are intellectual and they love to debate and they have a brilliant mind. Having a structured jacket and a clean white t-shirt inside, even if they're wearing jeans and sneakers, it doesn't really matter, but it still kind of makes them look put together and coordinated. Look more respectable rather than sloppy or rebellious. Your baseline is not a cage, it's a launch pad. Rule number 2, only one experiment. Just one experiment. What does this mean is you get to experiment only with one thing in your outfit. Everything else kind of stick to the same thing. So for example, okay, I'm just going to use myself as an example. I love to dress like an ENTP because I love leather pieces, leather jacket. But I also know that I cannot be wearing leather jacket all the time, especially in certain corporate situation where I need to appear more relatable, trustworthy, reliable. So instead of wearing a leather jacket, I would use leather as my base. But instead of experimenting with all the different pieces, making it look like I'm all over the place, I would just stick to the same silhouette. Let's say it's something what I'm wearing now, which is all black. Let's say a black knitted top with a bit of this asymmetry, and then a black satin skirt, for example, right? That one experiment would just be my shoes. That one experiment would just be my earrings. You know, like maybe it's a red vampire earring, still signify my personal style, or it could be changing it to pearl, just for the feminine touch. So I will make sure that my base is neutral and versatile enough for me to experiment with one item that is maybe introducing a jacket that has an unusual texture, but everything else looks the same. So I only experiment with one item in a single outfit, and that is the rule. Most importantly, everything else is quiet except that one item that I'm experimenting on that can be a little bit more unique. As I write the rules that I'm giving to ENTPs, I'm starting to realize that it's very similar to ENFPs because of Inferior Si. But I would say that for ENTP, it is good to sometimes wear what people are wearing and sometimes focus on the colors, because that kind of gives you the relatability, because you lack extroverted feeling. It's not really high up in your cognitive function, so sometimes you can appear intimidating. And I think wearing something that is more warm, the warm neutral color palette, a bit, instead of optic white, you go for ivory, a bit of the off-white cream color, beige with softer texture. And then for the guys, instead of a denim jacket, go for a soft cardigan. Things like that would help you to gain more trust, will help you to look a bit more welcoming, approachable. Because again, ENTPs come off intimidating most of the time, or maybe a bit more outspoken. Therefore, they kind of need to pull it back a little bit with the using Inferior Si. So in general, I would say the context of your outfit is very important, right? For ENTPs, is dress for the room first and then only add your edge. So this is advice that I'm giving myself too, because I'm quite rebellious in my dressing. I love rock band t-shirts, leather jacket, ripped denim jacket. So anything that makes me look like a rock star is my thing. But because of my industry, my career, my full-time job, I need to appear more corporate, people focused. So I cannot be dressing like I'm from a rock band, right? Because that's me going against rules, and then here I am trying to ask people to abide to rules, which doesn't really make sense, you know. So for me now is, I think about, okay, so who am I meeting? What impression am I going to set? What kind of mood I'm trying to evoke? And then only I add my edge. So if you look at my earrings, right, it's, if you pay very close attention, there's a skull. So this is from Alexander McQueen. So this is my subtle way of still instilling my rebelliousness without making it very obvious. I can go all the way out and wear a band t-shirt. It will go very well with this whole aesthetic of my earring, McQueen. But I'm not dressing for the room and not dressing for my professional goals, but instead I'm dressing for my ego, which is not helping the situation. So this is the advice that I'm trying to send out to ENTPs or any MBTI out there who love to rebel when it comes to your personal style. So again, ENTPs, my general advice to you, like I said, I can go very deep into what you should wear. If you're interested to work with me one-to-one, I do provide coaching sessions, help you understand your MBTI, at the same time come up with a framework, a blueprint on the kind of signature looks or personal style that you can go for according to your image goals and whatever your personality insecurities are, because I know that fashion is not just about trends and following the algorithm. It has to be congruence to what we value. Most importantly, you're very intentional with what you wear, and that's how you're going to control how people perceive you. So just the last few advice, remember, you kind of rebel against authority, therefore you do need to instill some authority to your outfit. So looking professional in some sense, not rebelling too much. And maybe pick one or two pieces that is not too obvious for you to rebel and still have your individuality in there is good. But overall, when you have tailored pieces, it's going to help you to showcase more of your inferior SI. Meaning, people will think that ENTPs, they don't really follow rules, they don't have a routine, but because you have tailored pieces and you do repeat some of your silhouette, it makes you look like you are someone that is consistent, that you have a routine. Essentially, that's what it's supposed to be doing. So ENTPs, I hope that you find this video useful. Let me know if it resonates with you. What are you wearing, ENTPs? I'm very curious to learn about what actually ENTPs wear. Although I'm already stereotyping because of all the ENTPs that I know, that I've been studying, they do have a similar pattern. So let me know in the comment section. The interaction helps me to keep all these videos going. At least it informs the YouTube algorithm that my videos are useful. If you like it, if you share it, so that this can help me to continue to push out contents like this for you guys in future. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.